Hey there everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I am travelling and I am in the middle of moving. I'm not actually moving today, but I am in the process of moving in my life. But I'm on a road trip today and I've just got some things rolling around in my head that I want to talk about, and mostly to do with moving cities, big changes, and things that I put into practice that I think might help someone. Right now I am parked up and beside beautiful Mount Ruapehu in New Zealand, the very centre of the North Island. This is the Central Plateau. It's beautiful. We've just had a light dumping of snow. Actually, I need to preface this with a little bit of experience in that the last 20 years of my life I have moved cities 8 times, and that's predominantly to do with my husband's career, and that's just the way it's been for us. So I do think that I have had experience in moving, and that I just have some things I want to share that might make it easier for those that are going through big transitions. I'm a part-time student, and so I've got a block course to go to, and on the way I'm stopping at my sister's place and I'm returning a whole lot of plants to her that I've been plant sitting for a little while, and they need to be returned to her now that she's in her new home. First and foremost is whether you're moving, transitioning, whether it's happening because you want it to or not. Sometimes people are being posted, sometimes people have to move for medical reasons, for financial reasons, for family reasons. Whether or not you are happy about the move, that where you're moving to, if there are people that live there and they are happily living there, there is always a possibility that you will too. There is a probability that you will be able to settle there, make a home there, be happy there, if there are others that are also thriving there. So that's something to keep in mind when you're hesitant, resistant to a shift or to a move to a place that's foreign. Times I've thought I'm never ever going to adjust to this place, and I did. I was there long enough that I did, and we settled and we made a home. No matter what we were living in, no matter what support was around us, we found ways to make it our home. And I can guarantee that for you as well. If you can see people there that are living their best life and enjoying their lives, then you can too. Okay, so I'm going to keep moving, and I've got about 3 or 4 hours ahead of me to get to Whakatane, where my sister lives, and I will share some more along the way and show you some beautiful scenery. Okay, stopping at a lake now. Gonna have to hop in the car because the cars are too noisy. So the next point I wanted to share, things that I think will be helpful. I think to know, just know at the outset that moving is really stressful. Even if it's a move that you're really excited about, it's still stress on the body. It's mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, it's all draining. It costs in some way because it's taking time away from your normal life and it's taking a lot of energy. And I think it's just important to know that up front, that it's going to take a lot of extra hours on top of your normal routine, that things aren't going to be the same, and that is going to cause disruption. Just understanding that if you're feeling stressed or anxious, that's normal because there's so much change happening, and it's a lot of mental energy that goes into working out the new thing, or problem solving, or finding solutions for different things that come up, because inevitably things do come up. Things that you thought were happening need to change, or things that you thought were going to be there are not, and you have to find an alternative. All sorts of things happen. So yes, things are going to be physically and financially draining. They're also going to be emotionally draining, because especially if you're dealing with a family that's also going through it, but for yourself, saying goodbye, you know, letting go of something, moving away from something that's so familiar is a type of grief. Sometimes it's different, various levels of grief, and so you have to manage that. And then there's also the excitement of what you're moving to. Although most of the time you can feel quite hopeful and excited about the shift and the things that you're moving to, you can also feel a little bit of fear, the unknown, the uncertainty, and all the things that are going to be unfamiliar. And it's increased when you're caring for other people that are going through those things and helping them to navigate their feelings and their emotions and try and articulate how they're feeling, children especially. So it's just draining in a lot of ways, and just to know that that's what's happening it kind of sets you up to make space for that. Give yourself space to have communication. Make sure that you are taking time to communicate and giving everyone space to talk and to feel. It's okay to cry. It's okay for others to be excited at the same time. It's an emotional time for everybody, whether they're feeling excited or sad or fearful, but that all those feelings have to be felt, and just to give them space to do so, especially for yourself, because if you're doing it and modelling it well, your children will also follow suit. And so that kind of moves into my next point, which is to make space to do the normal things, to do the essential things that you know will support you and your family and all the people that are moving in this household or in this community that's moving. You're going to be doing the things that you know are essential, which is having a comfortable space to live and to call home, or just have a home base, to make sure you're sleeping well. So that's to make sure that everybody's got a comfortable place to sleep with the things that make them feel supported so that they can sleep well, and also to eat well, to make time for meals and healthy food. Because firstly, you are often travelling. So travelling, you're in strange beds, you might be in strange places. If you can settle in one spot for the whole transition time, that's really helpful for small children. If you can make sure that you're eating well and not just getting takeout because no one's got time to cook, just do a big shop and buckle down and get the fridge filled with fruit and vegetables and the decent food that's going to set you up to just have some normal routines, and also to make sure that everybody's got a comfortable bed. They've got all the things that they need to help them feel supported and to sleep well. That's what I have found has worked for us, because if we're living on takeout, not sleeping well, and everybody's kind of like in the car all the time, you're just inevitably not going to cope with those feelings and those emotions and the things that are happening because you're transitioning. And also having those meal times and having those spaces, like making sure that everyone's having a normal bedtime and that you're living in one spot even though you're in a transition period, that you're eating well and having meals around the table, that creates space to have those conversations, to see where everyone's at, to ask questions, especially for kids to ask questions. Our kids are teenagers and they've had a myriad of questions all along the way, whether it's when we're moving or where are we staying, who can I visit. You know, they want to make plans for themselves and they want to know in advance as quickly as possible what's happening and when it's happening. So as soon as we know, we let them know, but we have to have a space to be able to do that, and that takes effort to make time to sit and just have the conversations. So yeah, meal times, sleep, and a good place to call home. Just consider those things to be essentials to support you as you shift. Okay, so I'm going to carry on for a little bit longer. Just like I have come from the mountain, you know, an hour and a half ago, I was, I think, about 1,000 meters above sea level, and I was in freezing wind. I couldn't stand outside. It was cold, it was windy, and I'm surrounded by snow. And now I'm at a lakeside that's 2 hours away. I can still see snow a little, but there's water, it's warmer, and there's bird life. I'm just thinking, as you're shifting, it's like that as well. Like, I'm not immediately it's like me going from my home to where my sister lives. I've got to go up and over hills, I've got to come down into this lake area, I've got to go round this lake, I've still got a few valleys to go through, I've got another lake to go around, and I've got another range of hills to go over. And the journey from one place, from where you are, to settling into another place is exactly the same. There's all sorts of emotions and things that you're going to have to go through in order to get to the other side. And it doesn't happen just like that. It happens over time. There's a process to it. It's not linear. There's all sorts of bends and winds and valleys and hills. Yeah, it's just a good analogy to keep in mind that, you know, moving from one place to another is a physical move, but it's also a mental shift that has to happen. Okay, I've still got a few hours to go, so I'm going to hit the road.
Of belonging and worthiness stems from my experiences as a shame researcher. Coming at this work with a full understanding of how the shame tapes and gremlins keep us feeling afraid and small allows me to do more than just present great ideas. This perspective helps me share real strategies
Oh my goodness. Okay. So now we are up in some hills. This is a side area. There'll be cars that go past every few minutes, but that's okay. It's like there's forestry up there, I think. So we're up in the hills a little bit, and it's nice to have a bit of a stop. It's been nice. I've been driving since 7:30 this morning, and it's now 4 o'clock. So it's been a long day, but it's nice to stop and chat to you guys. Ugh. So one of the other things that I was going to mention that kind of borders on settling the kids and having them communicate, what I have found in my 15 years or so of doing the move thing with kids, it's really awesome to be able to keep the connections going and to get them going as soon as possible in the new place. So for young school age kids, if you're seeing that they're missing their friends, it's really awesome way. There are some ways that you can keep them connected with them. So when they're younger, it's like with family or with friends that they still want to stay connected with. You know, you've always got the online component. They can do FaceTime, they can chat. It's not going to work. I can't talk. There's too much traffic. There's too many people on the move outside. It might be a car seat chat today. So one thing I did find when the kids were moving is that it was really important to keep connections going, for them to still have community all the time. We're moving out of an area. If you can maintain connections with the places that you're leaving, it's really good, whether it's FaceTime. I found a really good way for the kids to stay connected when they were younger was to write letters, do pictures, do drawings, write cards, and I would send them back to their friends and their friends would send them to them. And it was a really nice way for them to keep showing each other that they cared and that not a lot had changed in the friendship. And as they get older, they start to be able to visit each other again. One of my kids has maintained a friend from kindergarten, even though we haven't lived in the same city as them for 10 years. When we visited the area, he would come and stay with us. When he got a bit older, he went and stayed with them. They still do camping trips together. They're now communicating on their own without us. I know it's extra work as a parent, but it is something that is really valuable if you see or notice that your children are really wanting to connect with their old friends if they haven't quite yet established friendships where they are now. And as far as the new place goes, no matter how old they are, not so much if they're younger, but if they're older school age or if they're high school, that kind of age, they really need to be getting involved in youth groups, getting involved in their clubs, their sports, doing the things that are super familiar to them, that make them feel connected and help them feel like things are continuing somewhat as usual and that they can find their community. So just getting those things set up straight away. Sometimes you might be able to do research in advance. Sometimes once you hit the ground and you're actually in the city, it does change and you realize that things weren't as you thought. But there's always something that you can get your kids involved in to help them make connections and help them make friendships and set them up so that they can find their community. So those things are really important to get established fast with kids. And the same goes for you. It might be an opportunity for you to either get involved in the clubs that you know you like, or it might be an opportunity for you to start something new that you've always wanted to but you didn't have time for, or you know, it was a different season and you couldn't do it then but you can now. So new city can sometimes be new adventures, and sometimes it's like you just want something normal as it was before. And just because I'm an admin typey person and my job in the home is often the admin stuff, although James is good at it when needs be, I have to keep a notebook. So one thing to remember is that during a move, it's almost impossible to do everything all at once. Even though you are remembering that you need to do something, it might not be the right time to do it. Maybe you know that you need to go to find dentists and doctors, or you need to change addresses for things, or you need to get the kids new shoes. But you don't need to do it right now because it's going to be in 2 months' time, or it's going to be when you move. It's not time to change the addresses at the post office because you don't actually know what your new address is yet. So it's all of those little things. Bank accounts might have to change. So what I suggest is get a notebook and just make it your moving notebook. And it's going to be everything that comes to mind that needs to get done. You might want to separate it and have the things that you're going to do before you leave, the things that you do during shifting, and the things that you do once you're settled. And that just means that it's not something that you're having to carry around in your brain. They're things that won't get missed, that shouldn't get missed, and you can't afford to let them be missed. But it's something that will get done when it needs to get done because you've written it down and you don't have to remember it. Even put it on your phone, maybe that it will work for you. But I just have a notebook that I have with me all the time, and I'm just constantly making notes. There are so many things to do when you're moving. Moving out of a house, looking for a new house, buying a new house, getting children settled, getting yourself settled, finding out where everything is. No, like sometimes you just don't even know the city, and you're going to have to be following Google Maps for at least the first 6 months. Just have a notebook, put it in your pocket, pen there, and just make sure you're pulling it out every time you think of something, so you don't have to retain it in your brain that is already full to the brim of all the things that you need to do. Now, my last thing that I want to share with you is something that is tried and true, and I know it to be true. It takes anywhere between 12 and 18 months to feel like you're at home again, to feel like things are familiar. Depending on whether you've lived there before and it's a return trip, or whether you've never lived there before, it can take longer. So 12 months or so, once you've done a full year, a full cycle of things, it becomes familiar. You start to have memories that you've built, and it doesn't feel so foreign. Sometimes if it's a completely foreign place, it'll take about 18 months, and you'll start to feel like when you go away on a holiday and you come back, you're like, oh, I'm going home. This is my home now. I know where things are. I don't have to think all the time about where things are. I don't have to pull out Google Maps and see where I'm going. Just from someone who has done it enough times to know, about 12 to 18 months, depending on how foreign the place is to you, is a good gauge for how long it's going to take. So just show yourself some grace. Be okay with that process. Like here I am traveling from my home to my sister's home. I have traveled through snow. I went up above sea level, I came down, and I went through the lakes. Now I'm going over a little mountain range, and I'm going to come down again to the ocean. That's kind of what it's like when you're moving to a place. Yes, you physically move, but you have to mentally move and emotionally move, and you have to get adjusted, and your brain has to change what it's used to this new thing, this new environment, these new people, and this new way of doing things. It's not like it's done. It's a process. I'm tired right now, and I had to stop, and we had to pick up stuff, I had to get petrol. So that's what it's like when you're moving and you're going through a transition and a change. There's things that have to get done, and there's adjustments that have to be made. It's not a linear thing. It's not like you go from A to B. It's like you go a zigzag, and eventually you get there and it becomes home. So all the best to you. I just really hope that this has encouraged someone. Maybe it's going to help your family transition well as you move into the next phase, onto the new adventure. If you've got any questions, please put them down below. I really do appreciate hearing from you. So thank you so much for watching. I wish you all well, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.